Elon Musk is kind of an interesting person. My understanding is that he wants to use his wealth to push technology so that humanity can get off of Earth. So my understanding is that he's trying to push for specific technologies that are intended to make extraterrestrial life easier. So for instance, the moon rovers that we had back in the 70s when we were on the moon, those things were kind of crap. They I mean they worked well for what they were designed to do, but Tesla cars don't require oxygen to run, to my understanding. So you could literally just make a Tesla rover and it would have no problem running around on the moon. Recharging its power would be a problem, but you could, I potentially, in theory, make a Tesla rover and have it drive around on the moon's surface. So that's the big thing with electric vehicles. The other thing is with electric vehicles, you don't need fuel. Well, you do. The fuel is electrons, but you can make those electrons without burning fuel to do it. You don't need gasoline. So you can use this incredibly, relatively slow form of energy generation called solar power, and that will help. You might have to wait a while before you can drive it around again, but that's okay. Better, better to be safe and able to actually run everything instead of going out when you don't, when you might get stuck several, like many, many, many miles away from safety when you can't breathe the atmosphere because the moon's atmosphere is practically non-existent. So the moon does have an atmosphere, to my understanding. It's just it's so thin, you usually can just discredit that it even exists. It is there. It does have more of an atmosphere than space does, but it's not anything that you would like count as an atmosphere, despite it existing. Gravity has captured stuff. Um, but yeah, if you're wondering, like air pressure within, I believe it's the solar system, is something like 3 hydrogen atoms per like cubic meter or something. It's something like that. And then it gets even thinner in interstellar space. So the amount of stuff that'll be around the moon will be higher because it has gravity and can hold it in there. But it's nothing that you'll ever be able to breathe. So it is there, but you can't breathe it. So, stuff. So Elon wants to do that. He wants to create these technologies that push this so that you can actually be successful on interplanetary travel. He wants to do that Martian base, which might just end up with everybody dying. But hey, that's the thing with pioneers, is that they tend to go there and die, and then you learn a bunch of stuff about how they died and why they died, and then you improve that, and then you try it again, and eventually they all don't die. Eventually they do really well. Eventually. What I suspect will happen is America will create lunar bases. Well, Earth will create lunar bases. Those lunar bases will essentially be like a fuel depot to get to Mars and other planets. And then at a certain point, you won't need that fuel depot anymore. Yeah, I mean, basically, that's kind of how it works. And that's kind of how it works. I mean, what I assume will probably happen. I mean, well, I hope it doesn't happen. But so they send these robots to Mars and also to the moon, to the moon, to create their habitats. And so they create their habitats. They pressurize their habitats. Everything seems to be going fine, and then something that they didn't, something that was an unknown goes wrong, and everybody dies. And then they do a massive investigation, try and figure out what went wrong and why everybody died. They find out what the problem was, they fix the problem, and they try it again. And then, most likely, at some point, everybody dies. And they go and they find out what the problem was, and they fix it, and they try it again, and eventually it gets to where everybody doesn't die. That's kind of how that works. It's kind of crappy, but it's kind of how it works. In some cases, we have the luxury of, in some environments, we have the luxury of being able to just escape from the environment. But in the case of, like, the moon, escaping from the environment, if, like, all of the lunar bases fail, would be getting on a spaceship and flying back to Earth. Kind of hard to do. With Mars, your trip is either, what is it, like, somewhere between 9 months and, like, 12 months? Or longer? Depending on where the Earth and the Moon are. I mean, where the Earth and Mars are. So, you know, something. But, you know, stuff you figure out. So, like, for example, like, the first people we sent to Mars, they're all probably going to die within, like, 10 years of cancer. Because, you know, unprotected from all the radiation from the sun, which our magnetosphere protects you from. All the solar and cosmic radiation. So that'll be a thing. And then we'll figure out some sort of way to protect it that isn't just cover the ship in tons of water and hope for the best. And I also don't know if Mars has a magnetosphere. I don't think it does, because we think its core is dead, or it does, but it's not very strong. So then we have to find ways to protect ourselves from all that radiation, like, on the planet. So it's really complex. Earth is great for life. Other country, like Mars was great for life, we think, but isn't anymore. So, you know, it just is what it is. There were a lot of things that you know you have to do.